What's up everybody, welcome back. So a few things we're going to take a look at today. We're going to set up our respawn delay so it actually does something. We're going to take a look at the respawn rotation for the character and the controller so we do not get the weird turn in place animations if we respawn. And we're also going to set up the end game condition, so if the score limit or the time limit is reached, the game will end and the scoreboard will display for all players and it will tell you if you lost or won. So that's what we're going to do today. If you like the series, please consider leaving a like, and if you want to get your hands on the project file, you can become a member of the YouTube channel, and then you will get access to the premium channels in the Discord, which will also give you access to the project files of this project. So with that stuff out of the way, let's dive into today's video. So let's start with setting up the respawn delay, and for that we need to go inside of our base character. So let's open up the base character, and the first thing we want to do is go to our event graph begin play. So let's look for begin play, and all the way at the end we are on the server instance of the character, so we have the server branch over here. And if we are on the server, we want to get our respawn delay from the game mode, so we can get our game mode. And we're going to cast it to our shooter game mode. So we can simply plug it in over here. Now we need a little bit more room. Let's get rid of this stuff. So on the game mode we have the variable for the respawn delay. So we're going to get our respawn delay. And we're simply going to store it on our character. So we're going to create a new variable in here, and that's going to be the respawn delay. And in this case, we're going to turn it into a float. Yes, change it. Thank you. Oh, really? There we go. And then we can set it over here. So simply plug it in and convert the integer into a float. And that should be good to go. So now the server instance of the character knows the correct respawn delay. Then we're going to go to our AI melee impact event. So over here, multicast AI melee impact, respawn an emitter at location, play the montage for the impact, and then we check if we are alive and do all the dying stuff. So I want to split this up in two events because it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to play the animation and keep the dying stuff in the same event. So we want to split it up. So let's create a little bit of room over here. I'm going to move the start ragdoll to the side. And then over here, I'm simply going to disconnect the isAlive branch and also disconnect the branch for locally controlled. So we can get rid of this stuff. We don't need that part anymore. And then we're going to create a new custom event. And I'm simply going to call this die. So for this custom event, we want to replicate it to run on the owning client. And in this case, I'm going to set it to reliable. Nope. So we can simply plug it in over here, disable input, show the player died menu. We do not want to do that right away, so we're going to get rid of this node, disconnect it, and plug in the view target with blend first. So then we're going to disable the tick and switch on authority to disable the pawn control rotation, so that's all good to go. Then after that we want to grab a delay and plug in both of these branches. And after the delay, we're going to show our player died menu, and on the player died menu is the button to respawn. So now we need to make sure that we can pass on the delay, so we're simply going to plug it into the event to create an input, and this is going to be the respawn delay. So let's change the name over here, respawn delay. And that should be our dying function. So with the function in place, let's move it over here. So now we want to take a look at our take AI damage and take PvP damage. So let's do take AI damage first. And over here we want to add a call if we are dead. So over here, after the multicast AI melee impact in the top branch for the isAlive is false, we're simply going to add a call to our die event. So let's drag off here and call die. So we do not need a respawn delay because we are playing in the co-op mode. There we go. So we cannot respawn, so that doesn't really matter. So that's good to go. Then we're going to go into the PvP damage event, and in here we also want to add the dying call. So let's go to our multicast AI melee impact event right before the validated get for the game mode, and here we're going to call our die event as well. And this time we can plug in the actual respawn delay from the variables. So we are on the server instance. The server handles dying, damage and all that kind of stuff. So the server knows the correct respawn delay and then replicates that to the owning client for the die event. So that's good to go. And now we have our respawn delay set up, and that should work. So now let's take a look at the respawn rotation for the pawn and the controller, so we can get rid of the turn in place animations if we spawn. So let's open up our player controller to fix the turn in place animations if we spawn in. So we're going to go to our shooter player controller, and in the event graph we're going to create a new custom event. So we want to be able to set our spawn rotation for the controller, and we need to set it on the local controller, but we want to be able to have the server tell us what the spawn rotation is going to be. So we need to create a replicated event. So we're going to create a custom event, and that's going to be set spawn rotation. And we want this to run on the owning client. So let's replicate to run on the owning client. And then we're simply going to set our control rotation. And we're going to split the new rotation and only plug in the yaw into the event. So we have that set as an input. So this should be all we need over here. And now we can compile, save, and go into our shooter game mode. So let's open up the shooter game mode, and in here we have two functions for spawning. So we have the spawn default pawn 4, and we're gonna do that one first. So let's grab the player controller over here. So we have the cast to shooter player controller. We're gonna drag off here, and we're gonna call our set spawn rotation. So we're going to plug it in right before the spawn actor. So before we spawn our new pawn, we have the rotation of the controller set correctly, and then the pawn will spawn in that rotation as well. So then we're going to drag off the actor transform over here, and we're going to break the transform. And then we can simply split the rotation and grab the yaw and plug that into the set spawn rotation. So that's all we need to do in here. And we need to do the same thing in the respawn pawn for controller. So let's open that one as well. So it's pretty much the same event, but the other one isn't blueprint callable. So we made our own version. So again, we're going to drag off the player controller, and we're going to set the spawn rotation. Plug it in right before the spawn actor from class node. And then drag off the actor transform, break it, split the rotation, and plug in the yaw. So that should take care of the spawn rotation for the controller. Now there is one small thing left to do, and that's inside of our animation blueprint. So let's compile and save this and close it. Go to the characters folder, open up our hero animation blueprint. So over here we want to disable the turn in place animations for the first few ticks that this is running. And the easiest way to do it is simply grab our isPlayingTurn montage variable, and by default we're going to set it to true. So if it's true, it cannot play another turning montage. So it thinks it's already playing one, it's actually not, but we're going to block the animations using that. And then for the blueprint begin play, right after the end, we're simply going to add a delay of 0.2 seconds, so it needs to be really small, it doesn't need to take long. And then we're going to grab our playing turn montage and simply set it to false, so then we enable our play turn montages again. So this simply means the first few ticks it doesn't play the turning montages, and it doesn't mess with the yaw and things like that. So compile and save that one as well, and now we should be good to go and have the rotation fixed as well. So the only thing left to do is set up our end game condition. So for our end game, I want to update our player died menu first. So let's go to the widgets folder and open our widget blueprint player died. So I want to be able, the game over menu. So screw up, we're going to change the game over menu. So I want to be able to reuse it for the PvP game modes as well. And the only thing I want to do right now is erase this text a little bit, so I can also display the scoreboard on the same screen and they won't overlap each other. So I'm simply going to grab this border and move it up a little bit. It's going to be -240. Then in the graph, we need to make some changes as well. So we're going to go to the event graph and we're going to set up an event construct in here. And we need a bunch of variables. So first of all, let's grab those. So we're going to create a new variable. The first one is going to be the waves survived. And that's going to be an integer. So for all these variables, we want to make them exposed on spawn and then instance editable. Let's add the other variables. So the next one is going to be is PvP game. So that's a boolean. Again, instance editable exposed on spawn. The next one is going to be is winner. A boolean instance editable exposed on spawn. The second one is score limit. Also a boolean instance editable exposed on spawn. And the last one is time limit. And again, the same settings as all the other ones. So let's grab event construct so we can set that up. And first of all, we want to check if this is a PvP game or not. So let's grab a branch, plug in the is PvP game boolean. And if that's false, then we're going to set our text for the survived waves. So we can grab the function, plug it into the false bin and simply plug in the waves survived variable. And that's good to go. So if it's a PvP game, we want to know if we are the winner or a loser. So we're going to grab another branch in here and we're going to grab the is winner boolean, plug it in over here. Now let's do the winner branch first. So again, we're going to grab a branch because we want to know how we won. So we want to know if this is a score limit. So let's grab is score limit, plug it in over here. So if it's a score limit, I'm going to grab the text game over message and we need to make that a variable. So let's go over here. Oh, that's the text for the survived waves. There we go. So I'm messing things up. So we actually can grab the text for the survived waves and we're going to turn that into a game over message. So we're not going to use it to say you survived so many waves, but we're simply going to say you won, score limit reached. So drag off here and set the text, plug it into the true pin, and then we can simply type the message. So in this case, that's it. You won, exclamation mark, and then score limit reached. Score limit reached. There we go. So if this is not a score limit, we're going to grab another branch and make sure that it's a time limit. So plug in the is time limit. And in that case, we want to set the text to you won, a time limit reached. So let's plug this one into the true pin, copy the setter. And in this case, we're going to say time limit reached. And then we could turn the text green because this is the winner, so it shows a little bit better that you won. So we can drag off the text again and set the color and opacity. And plug it into both of these branches because both of them are for winning. And then we can make a slate color over here and simply select some greenish color, whatever you prefer. There we go. So that's for winning, and now we can do the losing branch. So over here is winner is false. Then we can pretty much grab all of this stuff. So let's just copy and paste it over here. So if it's the score limit that's reached, we're going to say you lost, score limit reached. And the other way around for the time limit. So you lost, time limit reached, change the text, and then we can change the color over here to something red. And that should be good to go as well. Okay, so we have the game over screen set up, and now we want to go into our player controller to add some events in here. So let's close the game over screen, go to framework and open our shooter player controller. So first of all, let's go to the event graph and create a few custom events that we need for when the game ends. So the first thing we're gonna create is the UI show game over screen. So custom event, UI show game over screen. Oh, really? Okay, we already have that event, so we're gonna change it up. I'm sorry. So UI game over screen, make sure you look for that event on your player controller. It's replicated to run on the owning client, so that's good. And we want to change this up a little bit. So we need to refresh the node over here because we added a bunch of variables to our exposed on spawn ones. And when we do so, we get all of the booleans in here. So we can simply plug in our waves survived. So let's get rid of this, plug in waves survived into the create widget node, and we're also going to pass on the variables to the event. So simply pass on the booleans to the replicated event. And then all we want to do is add the widget to our viewport. So we do not want to call the setText survived waves. We took that into our construction event. So we can get rid of this and simply add it to the viewport right away. And that's good to go. So this is our new UI show game over screen event. Then we also want to have an event where we can disable the controller input from the server, and we need to disable it on the local controller. So we need to create a replicated event, and we're going to call this something like a controller disable input. So for this event, again, we're going to set it to run on the owning client, and I'm going to make it reliable. And all we're going to do in here is disable the input. So disable input. And then the target is going to be our controlled pawn. So drag off the target, get controlled pawn. No. There we go. And the player controller is a reference to ourself. So plug in a reference to self. And we also want an event to toggle the scoreboard on screen without actually using our input button. So we're going to create another custom event and call this client toggle scoreboard. So we're going to make this run on the owning client again. And in this case, it doesn't really need to be reliable. So we can simply call our UI toggle scoreboard. So that's the function we have over here. We can drag it in and pass on the new visibility to the event as an input. So with these events in place, we can take a look at setting up the game mode so he can handle ending the match. So let's open up our shooter game mode, and in here, first of all, let's add an event for when the game is over. So we already have a game over endless wave event, and we're going to do a similar thing for our PvP match. So this is still good. So let's create a new custom event, and we're going to call this game mode PvP game over. So first of all, we're going to grab all of our connected controllers, and we're going to grab a for each loop, plug everything in. And we want to tell the controllers that the game is over. So we actually need to create a variable on the player controller, and I forgot to do that. So let's close it down and let's open up our shooter player controller. And on the shooter player controller, we're going to create a new variable, and that's called isGameOver. So that's a boolean, that's fine, and we're going to make sure that it's replicated. So turn on replicated over here. And then we also want to make sure that we go into our show player died menu. So let's open up our UI show player died menu function. And in here we want to check that the game is not over. So before we do anything, we're going to add a branch in here, plug in our isGameOver boolean, and if isGameOver is false, then we're going to create our player died menu. And I also noticed over here I'm counting the dead players, but I accidentally plugged it into the true pin, so this doesn't work. I'm actually counting the players that are alive, so I need to make sure that I switch this one over. So if isAlive is false, then we're incrementing the dead player count, so now that should work. So we have the variable in place right now, and now we can go back to our shooter game mode. So we have a for each loop for the player controllers, and we're going to set our isGameOver boolean. So we are the server, so this will replicate to the local player controllers as well. We're going to set it to true, so the game is over. Then we want to disable the input for all the controllers, so we created an event for that. So let's call it controller disable input. So that's the replicated event to the owning client again. And after that we want to show the game over screen. So we can drag off the controller again, and we're going to call our UI show game over screen. Plug it in over here as well. And for the isTimeLimit and isScoreLimit, we're actually going to pass those on to the event. So grab the isScoreLimit, drop it onto the event, and do the same thing for the isTimeLimit. Then we need a third input for the event, and that's going to be the winner. So let's add a third input, call this winner, and that's going to be a shooter player controller. So shooter player controller. Then we can go back over here, and this is a PvP game, so we can set this to true manually, because this is our PvP game game over event, so that makes sense. And we can know if we are the winner by simply comparing this player controller from the array element. So drag off here, compare it, is equal to, and if it's equal to the winner, then this is the winner. So we can plug the outcome of this equation into the isWinner, and that will make everything work. So this will disable the input and display the game over screen for the clients, or for all the players actually, not for the clients. So then we're going to wait for a few seconds, so maybe 3 seconds or something, and then we're going to show the scoreboard on the screen for everybody so they can see the results of the match. So on the completed pin, delay for 3 seconds, and then we're going to grab another for each loop and again plug in all of our connected controllers. So in this for each loop, we want to call the client toggle scoreboard event. So client toggle scoreboard. And we're going to set it to visible, hook it up to the loop body. That's good to go. So now everybody will have the scoreboard on screen as well. And then we're going to wait for another 5 or 10 seconds so everybody can look at their scores. And then simply go back to the lobby so we can execute a console command over here. And we want to use the server travel to our lobby menu. So we can use server travel and then to the lobby menu map. For the specific player, we can get the player controller at index 0. We are the host, so we're getting our own local player controller. So that should be good. So this is our game over event. Now we also want an event to determine which player won if we had a if we had a time limit. Okay, we need to plug in the controller over here for the disable input event and also for the target of the UI show game over screen. And that will take care of the errors. So we're going to create a function to tell which player won if we are ending the game by a time limit. So let's create a new function and call this GameMode PvP find winning player. And for this, again, we're going to grab a for each loop and loop through all of the connected controllers. So drag those in and plug them in. From the connected controllers, we can get all of the kills. So let's get the kills and we can store them in an array. So we're going to create a local variable and that's going to be the local kill scores. Local kill scores. So that's an array of integers. Integer, turn it into an array. So we're going to drag it in over here and we're going to set an array element. Plug it into the loop body and make sure that the index comes from the array index over here. Then we can plug the kills in the item and enable size to fit. So these arrays will match up. And then we can simply get the one with the highest value. So if this is completed, we're going to drag in our local kill scores, drag off the array and find the max of int array. So the index with the maximum value is the index of the player controller that won. So we can drag in all of our player controllers, get a copy, plug in the index of maximum value. And then we can simply grab a return node for the completed pin. So return node. And we're going to pass on the player controller and that's actually the winner. So that's the output of the function and that's a shooter player controller. So compile and save this one and then we can go back to our event graph. And for the event graph, we want to go to our timer event. So we have the match timer interval event. And at the end, if the time is over, we want to call our find winning player. So match timer interval. At the end, if the duration is 0, match ended, we're clearing the timer. And then we're going to drag in our GameMode PvP find winning player. And after that, we can call our PvP game over event. So we can drag off here again and simply call GameMode PvP game over. So we can plug in the winner over here and we know that it's a time limit. So we're going to enable time limit. And that should be good to go. So the time is 0, that's why it's a time limit obviously. So we have that one set up and then we need to go inside of our PvP killed player event. And in here, we're going to set up if it's a score limit. So we can continue over here. We're going to grab a branch. And this guy actually made a kill recently. So we're going to drag off here and compare this kill count to the score limit. So equal to, and we can drag in the score limit from our variables, plug it into the branch. So if we reach the score limit, then we're going to call our PvP game over. So we can drag off the true pin and call GameMode PvP game over. So in this case, it's a score limit. So we can enable that boolean and we can plug in the winner. And that's actually the killer from the input. So we can get killer and plug it into the winner. There's one small check we want to make if we disconnect it over here and grab an end node. So we want to make sure that we actually have a score limit set. And if we have it set to 0, there is no score limit. So we're going to drag off the score limit and make sure that it's greater than 0. Plug it into the end node and then this should be the condition. So this will end the game if one of the players has reached the score limit. Okay, so that should be pretty much good to go. So let's have a little test, see if everything is working, and then we are done for today. So ready to go with a 2-player lobby. I'm gonna make sure that I set the score limit to 5 over here and the respawn delay to 3 seconds. So we can see if that stuff is working. And we should also do not have the annoying turn in place animations if we spawn or respawn. So let's have a little look. I'm gonna kill this guy 5 times as quick as I can. So we cannot respawn right now for 3 seconds. So that's actually working. So let's respawn and let's make sure that we keep this going. Oh, really? We need to reload, obviously. So that's 2 kills. That's 3. So if I make this last kill, we should win the game and the game should be over. So let's see if that's actually working or not. There we go. You won, score limit reached, the other guy lost, and our scoreboard pops up. And after 10 seconds we should return to the lobby. About 10 seconds. There we go. So that's actually working. So now I'm gonna start another match and make sure that the time limit is working as well, but I'm not gonna keep you guys waiting, so I'll be back in a little bit. So here we are back again. We have about 20 seconds left and I let the respawn delay at 10 seconds. So let's make sure that that's working. So we shouldn't be able to respawn till there's about 3 seconds left right now. So that's actually good. And then if the time is up, the game is also over and we have our you lost, you won message and our scoreboard pops up as well. So it looks like everything is working and we are done for today's episode. Hope you enjoyed the video and the series. If you do, please consider leaving a like, that helps out the channel tremendously. And I'll be back soon with more stuff. Talk to you later guys and girls, bye bye.